Hey, good afternoon. It's Thursday, April 3rd, and my name is Rob. That developer dad is how I am known around here. And we are getting ready to start adding some new features to the DM's familiar. And before I dive into that, like before I dive into the C# and the code and the .NET and all the magic, I want to make sure I've got a design for where this new code is going to go. And I took some time yesterday. I didn't stream because I hadn't gone through this deeper analysis of the different processes and the managers and so on and so forth. I'm actually not going to have an encounter or a world or a campaign manager, but I've been able to distill what I actually need to build, or at least the high-level conceptual components, into a couple of core concepts. One of which is, or they all revolve around game content. And game content is really the stuff that the DM is going to be building and designing. The townsperson object is an example of this game content, or of a type of game content entity. And I think I'm going to have to retrofit that in later with a larger refactor. But I think for this newer feature, where we're going to be creating an encounter tracker, I really want to start off right by setting up this game content creation and management system by which, the content is designed and then organized and then played. So let's talk about the different kinds of sort of generic service types we're going to need. So we've got this idea of game content being a base class, and then we'll have abstract locations, which are just a specific category of game content. And then from location, we'll have things like world and continent and country and subcountry, settlement, point of interest, all the way down to structure, perhaps. And on the other side, we'll have game content, which is a story element. And I got to rearrange some of these things here. So I got to grab this guy and this guy, pull you guys down here. And I got to make this. Hey, what's up, Fry? I'm going to make this a little bigger so that it's a little easier to read. Here we go. So another category of game content that we'll be dealing with is story elements. And a story element is an abstract class that defines at the highest possible level a saga, which is a collection of story arcs. And then below saga, we've got those story arcs, which is a collection of stories, which may include chapters. And stories or chapters may include events. Or stories and or chapters will include sequences or series of events. The exact timing of when those happen and so on, that's kind of up to the players. But we want to plan those as events. And that event is, or rather our encounter tracker, is just a execution of one type of event, that type of event being a combat event. And of course, there's role play events, skill tests, purely narrative events, and world change, which is something that occurred to me yesterday that, it might be like a story beat that I just kind of narrate that the world is changing around the party or something like that. And I want to be able to incorporate those into the plan of a session. or, the narrative structure of a story. Because a session is just a play session where the player characters experience or help to create a part of either a story or a story chapter by interacting with these events. So we've got one overarching concept, game content. And I need to create a new field or a new slide. Add slide. Here we go. Static design. And we're just going to delete that. So as with all of the systems that I build, I am just going to pretend that the clients are a big amorphous thing. And I like to color my client blocks in my diagrams a green color. Clients. Now we're going to make the text black. Console apps, web apps, etc. Excuse me. And then below clients, I've got my BFF layers. And the BFF combines use cases presented by managers to provide more overarching workflows that can be invoked by these clients. Next step down, we have managers, and I like those to be sort of a yellow. We'll go with that. And then engines. And for engines, I like a different color than that orangish yellow. I like to go with a more orangey orange. And then finally, we've got resource access. Now, managers expose use cases. Use cases are implemented by composing capabilities that are exposed by engines and resource access into specific user activities, or system activities, I should say. So for this subsystem that we're building, we're going to have managers that are of type well, perhaps we won't. So common capabilities that we're going to need for all of these things. We'll need for our game content, regardless of specific kind, we need get filtered list, load, save, remove. We'll also need set parent, yeah. Now the load is going to have a couple of usage contexts. We're going to have load for edit, for assign, and play. Save, really just edit, assign, play. Edit. Now, instead of edit, assign, play, I'm going to say design, organize, or play. Design, organize, and play. Design, organize, and probably not play. Set parent at design, organize. That's really about all we need for these. Yeah. So this is what looks to be the basic game content manager. Now, game content is a abstract class. So we're not actually going to implement an iGame content manager. We're going to have an iGame content manager of T. Maybe. We'll get there. And I think what we want to do, so this is for the manager. That's our basic all things. For engines, we're definitely going to want some common behaviors. Randomize T. Random generator of T. And a prompt creator of T. And the prompt creator is going to be responsible for taking a specific instance of a specific type of game content and inspecting which attributes have already been populated by the end user and determining which attributes the user wants an AI to fill in the blanks for. Now, not all of our game content types are going to have a prompt creator. And not all of our game content types are going to have a random generator right off the bat. But if we at least design the ability to retrofit those things in later easily, when we've decided what those activities will look like and what types of data they'll be producing, as long as we've got the ability to add that in later, cool. That way we can do it later on, and it will cause less disruption to the rest of the code around it. Now, resource access, that's easy. And resource access, I need to color code this a little differently. This guy, I like my resource access components to be blue. And I don't want that, but I do want a shape. And we'll just go physical resource. So that's sort of the general idea. So I'm going to duplicate this slide. Game Content Manager. Generation engine. Prompt creation engine. Yeah, September is in the background making some sort of Mexican dish, enchiladas or empanada or something. I'm not sure. It's some kind of lasagna looking thing. Not my jam, dude. She loves it. A lot of people love it. It's too many textures and too many flavors all at once. I don't even care for lasagna. It's like a autism thing for me. Resource access of T. Well, it's a good thing Garfield. Well, Garfield would be exceptionally happy because he could have mine. So, game content manager of T. Of T. Of T. And then up in the BFF is where we degenericize all of these different workflows, because the BFF is going to have an awful lot of very transient methods on it that basically just combine all of these manager methods into end user workflows. And here we are in VS Code. And the very first thing I'm going to do is create a new branch. Feature. Slash game content features. And we've got concepts down here. I think I'm going to add a new folder, a new namespace to gametools.framework, and I'm going to call it domain concepts. Here we are. Now let's add a new file, and it's going to be a class, and it will be, whoops, game content base. Now, I know I said the other day that I wasn't going to go down a inheritance hierarchy rabbit hole, but I'm going to go down it won't be a rabbit hole because this will at most have a child class depth of 4, and there will only be one kind of child class at layer 4 of this hierarchy, and that's going to be that event concept. But describes the basic properties that are common to all game content types. And we are going to have prop, GUID ID. What the heck are you doing? Public set or protected set? I'm gonna go with public. I might change my mind on that a little bit. String, lowercase string. I'll fix that in a second. Name. Prop. GUID. User ID. Owner user ID. Prop. GUID. Author user ID. I'm adding owner ID as a separate property right now for reasons. Prop bool is public, also for reasons. And then, of course, we will have prop, date time, created date, prop, date time, updated date, prop, date time, deleted date. Save. Excuse me. And set a constructor. Well, it's abstract, so that doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Protected game content base. This needs to be nullable. That needs to be nullable. Ideas, new GUID. Those guys are like that. Name equals string dot empty. Private set. And finally, by default, is public is false. That's one of those future me is going to thank me for doing this now type things. Okay, there's one more property I need to add. And it's string content category name public string content category get private set. And we need a semicolon. And there we go. Do we have any warnings? We don't have any warnings here. Cool. And this forms our game content base. Now, what is a game content base? Game content types, okay. This base game content refers specifically to those objects that are used in running a campaign. All right. So now we add a new file. It's going to be a class. It's going to be location base. It also is going to be public abstract class location base inherits game content. And let's satisfy the angry code. Boop. All right. And then we've got a prop string description. And we'll have another prop, which will be a nullable GUID. Called parent location ID. And we're going to have a protected virtual type array that is potentially nullable. Allowed child locations. Get. Actually, I'm going to make this abstract. There. Save. What are you complaining about? Description. And let's see here. We're going to make is public a protected set. This will be a init. This will be protected set. Will it be protected set? No, it won't. It's just got to be a regular set. Excuse me. Author user ID, owner user ID. I'm going to get rid of that. I don't feel like that should be part of the actual content definition. Author user ID, yes, that can stay, but that wants to be set upon creation. So now when we're protected set, I think that'll work. I might have to adjust that later. All right, parent location ID. And we are going to want a GUID author user ID. And I'm going to say author user ID equals author user ID. Save. Now, on top of location base, we're going to add inherits location base. And we'll add our constructor. There we go. Cool. And then the world Just has a list of child locations. Excuse me. List of location base. And we'll get and we'll set. Contains the immediate children of this location only. I am not going to allow plumbing all the way down when we load an object or when we load a world object. And that's really about it. And what's this complaint about? I'm just going to give this a now allowed child location types. We're going to add private type array. And we're just going to do this, pop down here. Allow child location types, like so. And we'll pop that in by 1. And for world, well, I haven't created those types yet. I'll have to come back to this guy. So let's create continent. New class continent. It inherits location base. And we got to clean up the grumpies. There's that. And like world, it hasn't got much else. Except for public list, location base, child locations. There we go. And we've got a private type array of allowed child location types. And since we've just created continent, let's pop in here. Equals new type array. And I'll just go type of continent. There we go. We're just going to straight up instantiate this son of a gun and just hard code the population of it, because this isn't going to be very volatile once these object types have been defined. And if I add new object types, I'll come in and add those here. So this is very, very much non-volatile code here. It's going to change a lot while I'm developing, but it's not really going to change all that much once the system is in place. Like from a maintenance standpoint, not really that changeable at all. And let's just use a collection expression there. And just tidy this up so that it looks a little better. That's all right. I can live with this. Okay. Now, continents can have countries, settlements, or points of interest, but let's define country first. Because we're starting to get some interesting things on the country. Now, this guy inherits from location base, just like the others. And we're going to need to add prop list of location base, child locations, there we go. What is this complaining about? Oh, yeah, duh. Okay, fine. And then, of course, in here, we'll do that. Save. And a continent, well, first off, a world has country as a direct descendant in some cases. And a continent absolutely has that as a direct descendant. Excuse me. And I'm going to hide Copilot because I need this real estate over here. Because below country, we've got, well, actually, I haven't finished defining country yet. Silly me. So down under child locations, and I'm thinking child locations really go to definition. I don't know why I'm defining that everywhere. There's that. And I'll save it. I'll pop this out like so. Save. And we'll get rid of this. And we'll get rid of it here. We'll get rid of it over on continent as well. I feel like I can do this more elegantly as well. We'll get there. All right, so country prop string country kind. Holds the kind of nation. described by the country instance. Example: Kingdom, Empire, Republic. Freelance, etc. Prop, string, and I'm going to have government. Yep. Describes the type of government in place for this country instance. Dictatorship, tribal council, there we go. And of course, child locations is coming in as part of the base class, and I'm going to populate those with default string empties. Now, after countries, we've got subcountry. I couldn't think of a good word for that, so I'm going to roll with subcountry for the time being. How about national region? Location base. Fix the grumpies. Private type array. Now, a national region cannot contain a continent or a country. That's silly. Protected override type, allowed child location types. This guy just returns the allowed. You know, I'm typing this an awful lot. Protected type array. Allowed child location types. There we go. I'm going to go public, not abstract. And I'm going to move this. Oh, stop it. To there. Like so. Now, world, instead of this, up in the constructor, I'm going to say I'm going to cut this, paste it up in here. Now I got to come down to continent, move this into the constructor. There we go. We can 86 all that repetitive code. Where's country? Here's country. Let me grab this. C. The national region. Now we can get rid of those. Goodbye. Now, country kind, government type. Now, over here in my initial design thinking, when I was brainstorming stuff yesterday, for subcountry, I've got subcountry kind, like province, state, duchy, barony, etc., etc. And I've been kind of going back and forth about promoting that up to the level of country. But I realize that, say, in a kingdom or an empire, you might have the next smallest scale of location within an empire could well be a country, or it could be a kingdom that, swears fealty and pays tribute to the emperor. You may have duchies, you might have republics that exist within subdivisions of that empire. So I think rather than promoting this subcountry kind up to the country level, so that, like in modern days, the United States is divided into regions called states. In Canada, then we've got provinces. In Ireland, I believe they're called counties. It's consistent in modern times, but in older times, when the boundaries of empires and kingdoms and so on and so forth were a lot more volatile and fluid, you would end up with a republic that might contain some location that's called the Duchy of so and so. So I think I am gonna leave this at the national region level. Now this, you're out of here. Boy. And I'm gonna grab that and move it up here. And I'm gonna get rid of this. And we're gonna go prop, string, and instead of subcountry kind, region type label. And I am going to province, state, territory, barony, duchy, and whatever other types of subregions might exist for other cultures. Clan hold, who knows? And we will have public string regional government type, and I'm just gonna set these to string empties up here. Now I've added, rather than visiting the, bouncing back and forth from subtype to subtype to subtype as I add them, I'm just going to go through the darn list as I go. So here's location base. I don't think I really need this guy open right now. You can go away. But I'm going to take country or continent, and then country, and then national region. And no, I'm not adding planet and multiverse or sphere or anything like that at this point. That's further than I'm ready to go at this stage of the game. I could add universe and have world be allowed to be parented by a universe. But let's not add that additional level of complexity yet, because that just opens up gigantic balls of craziness. So we have a settlement, and a settlement inherits from location base. And we'll fix the grumpy code. There we go. And I need to allow child location types equals, and I'm just going to use an expression body there. Now, prop string settlement kind. What kind of settlement is described by this object? City, town, village, hamlet, war camp, shire, etc. We also have a government type for the settlement. Public string, settlement government type. Yeah, fine. And we have, excuse me, prop string map reference. For now, this will contain a reference to where the map for the settlement can be located within the DM's other materials. Page number, file name, URL. I am not getting into storing map images and all of that insanity at this stage of the game. Hey, what's up, Johnny? Boom. I'm going to leave settlement open, but I'm going to pull this off to the side of national region. Next up, I need another class called point of interest. Inherits from location base. Fix the grumpies. Get rid of this nonsense. And prop string point of interest kind. Rename point of interest type to point of interest kind. Hold the kind of point of interest. Points of interest are locations with specific purpose or significance, but not necessarily a civilized population like a settlement, ruin, shrine, dungeon, temple, I had a whole stack of examples for this. Old battlefield, graveyard, forest, mountain, so on. You get the idea. Up to 16 gigabytes of memory. Yeah, that sounds a lot more reasonable than the hundreds of gigs. Although, granted, if you're running a server to run multiple Minecraft servers for rent, Johnny, yeah, I could see needing like 168 gigabyte RAM, Honka metal and silicon. But I ain't got that kind of money, so I'm not in the Minecraft server hosting business. Ruin Shrine Dungeon Temple. A point of interest can become setting for encounters and may contain structures. There we go. Public string, point of interest kind. Groovy. And then finally, we have, I can't use the word structure because it's a reserve. Yes, I can. Structure. Inherits from location base. Fix the grumps. And allowed child location types, new type. Silly, you can't put a structure in a structure. There we go. I'll get rid of those. Goodbye. And prop, string, structure kind, prop, whoops, string, purpose. I'm just going to go with kind, purpose, prop, string, map reference. There we go. And we will, not my property, map ref. String.empty. And save a root. Now, the last thing I'm going to do this session is I'm going to make sure that these child locations or the allowed child location types are populated across the board. Type of, structure, but not these other things. Point of interest also requires a map reference. It is string.empty. Settlement. Here we go. settlement can contain structures. Point of interest can contain structures. And a structure can't contain any other locations. Oh, what are you doing, Rob? So we can close structure, settlement, and point of interest. National region can't contain other national regions, but it can absolutely contain settlement or a point of interest. That's country, you goof. There. Save. Country, yes. Country can contain national region, settlements, points of interest. Because you could have like sort of wild frontier parts of a country that haven't organized into a discrete region yet. Or you could have, for instance, Washington, D.C. is a perfect example of a country having an immediate child item of city. National region can contain type of settlement, type of region, not region, point of interest. Come on. Saveroo. And there's that. A continent can contain a country. A continent can also contain settlements and points of interest. Settlement, type of, point of interest. Come on, there we go. Save, and worlds can contain anything smaller than a world. Type of a national region cannot exist outside the context of a country. So, world can have settlements, point of interest, type of structure. Save. I'm going to build. Make sure I don't have any compiler warnings or errors from all of this work. And when I come back tomorrow, we're going to start working on creating probably the resource access component for these different domain concepts, at least the concrete ones. So until then, I thank you for joining me, and I would go longer, but an hour is long enough, and I've got to go do other things because I've got band practice tonight. I will see you all tomorrow afternoon. I will say hello to the peoples. Unfortunately, I will not be going to Vegas this year due to employment nastiness or lack of employment. Nastiness brought on by lack of employment. But at least I'm doing some subcontracting these days, and that should help. That should help keep the bill collectors at bay, or at least keep them happy. But yeah, I last weekend I filled in on bass for a local band, and they decided the new bass player that they had just brought in was out sick with the flu, and they weren't super overjoyed with the other guys playing. And I sat in with them last Friday to fill in while he was out sick, and boy howdy did everybody have a lot of fun. So I got a little phone call earlier this week asking if I would like to be less temporary with them. And I said, why? I would love to, because I've been retired as a musician for a long, long time. And coming out of retirement is something that I really ought to do. So I have practice tonight. I will see you all tomorrow afternoon. Until then, take care and happy coding. Bye now.